This is to review the supply and demand curve shifts and homework for economics. So we're going to talk about the reasons that a demand curve would shift and the reason that a supply curve would shift. The first reason is income. So if it's a normal good, demand increases as income increases. If it's an inferior good, the opposite would happen. Demand decreases as income increases. The next reason that something would shift the demand curve would be price of related goods, a substitute or a complement. The third reason would be taste, so consumers' tastes. Population and demographic is number 4, and expected future prices. Remember, with expected future prices, the consumer would expect prices to go down in the future, demand would decrease now, and people would wait to buy it in the future. So this is a copy of a demand curve moving outward or shifting right. This is an increase in demand. And this is a copy of a decrease in demand or shifting left. Now, to go over the supply curve, you need to remember to think like a business owner. Most people can answer demand questions pretty easily because they are consumers. But when you're answering supply curve questions, you must think like a business owner. Remember, your goal is profit, and you have certain expectations, which are probably opposite of what a consumer would want to happen. So the reasons a supply curve would shift: price of an input. So if the prices of inputs, labor, other materials or goods, natural resources go up, demand would go down or shift left. Technology change. Most likely the technology change is positive. It can be negative. It's not always positive. But most likely a technology change would cause a supply curve to shift to the right or increase. Price of substitutes in production. Now what this means is if I'm Coca-Cola and I have the opportunity to produce Diet Coke or Coke, if I can charge a higher price for Diet Coke, then I'm going to spend more time, I'm going to supply more Diet Coke and reduce or shift left the Coke scenario. So, number of firms in the marketplace. When more firms enter the marketplace, this will cause an increase in supply or shift right. And expected future prices. Now, if I expect as a supplier to be able to charge more, then I'm going to reduce supply now or shift left and supply more when I can charge more in the future. And remember, a change in price in the same market is a change in quantity demanded or quantity supplied, not a shift in the curve. So now I'm going to review the homework questions. Okay, we're in the redwood lumber market. Environmentalists urge consumers to boycott redwood products. So urging consumers is trying to change their tastes. So go back to my notes here. It's trying to change their tastes. So that's going to decrease demand or shift left. A new study shows smoking cigars causes lots of wrinkles. People are going to feel like, oh, I don't want lots of wrinkles. So that's going to cause demand to shift left or go down. Now, butter. If the price of margarine goes up, we're going to supply less butter. The reason being is if we're a supplier and we can charge more for margarine, we would shift the butter supply to the left and increase supply of margarine. Because remember, think like a business owner. Paper. So if I'm in the paper products and the price of pulp, wood pulp rises, this is an input, this is how you make paper, then supply would decrease because, go back to our form here, supply is a price of an input would cause a change. So, hula hoops. If Brad Pitt confides in People magazine that he gets a big kick out of his hula hoop, then he's going to increase demand or shift demand right. Okay, so if we're talking about yachts and the average prices of stocks fall 20% between now and the end of the year, demand for yachts is going to go down because this is a change in income. So if it's a normal good, which yachts would be a normal good, then demand is going to go down as income decreases. Now, demand for gasoline, if everybody likes more SUVs, would actually go up because you need more gasoline if you're driving SUVs. In the umbrellas market, if heavy rain is forecasted, people are going to demand more umbrellas, or demand is going to shift right. Now, this one seemed to be a tricky one for people. If E. coli bacteria is found in another meat plant, what's going to happen to tofu? There's going to be a demand increase for tofu because people are going to want less meat, and this is a substitute. We're assuming that tofu and meat are substitutes. If two oil supertankers collide, that's going to change supply or decrease supply or shift left. If we are in the hamburger market and hamburgers, the price of hamburgers are on the rise, in the same marketplace, remember these notes that I made, a change in price in the same marketplace is a change in quantity, which is technically movement along the same curve. So I'm going to go back to the demand here. Scroll through my little notes. And basically, it's going to be movement along the same curve. So it's none and none, really a trick question. There would be no change in supply or demand. It would just be movement along the same curve. Oranges, if there's an early frost that destroys much of the crop, that's going to change the supply or reduce it, shift left. Apples, a new pesticide is developed which controls caterpillars. So that means there's going to be more apples in supply or supply right. The National Marine Fisheries bans pesticides spraying 1,000 feet within the waterways containing coho salmon. What's going to happen to the grapes that grow by those waterways? Well, if we can't spray pesticides, then basically we're going to have less of a supply, so supply left. If we're in the wine marketplace and the average wage of grape harvesters goes up by 10%, this is an increase in an input, so supply would shift left. If we're in the U.S. car market and the U.S. imposes a tariff on Japanese cars inputs, that's going to make the cars be more expensive, so therefore we're going to demand more U.S. cars because the price of Japanese cars are going to go up. If scientists discover a pill that cures cancer, then demand for hospital beds, right here, would go left. We would decrease demand because technically you wouldn't need a hospital bed if you can just take a pill and it will cure cancer. Let's say a 7.9 earthquake hits San Francisco. Well, in order to rebuild, there would probably be an increase in demand for cement. Assuming that TV, cable, and video rentals are substitutes, if the price of cable goes up, then demand for rentals will shift right. A new law is passed requiring gravel trucks to cover their loads with a tarp. This means less rocks on the road, therefore demand for windshields will decrease. A taxi service. We're in the taxi service business, right, in the marketplace, and local subway workers go on strike. So if you believe that taxis and subway are substitutes, then demand right for the taxi service. The price of bicycles goes down, and bike helmets are complements to them. So they're going to go with each other. So if it costs less to buy a bicycle, then I'm probably more likely to do that, and therefore demand for helmets will increase or shift right. If the cost of water goes up, and that's a key component to making melons, that is an increase in an input or supply left. So I saw a bunch of answers on this one. If you're talking about Lucrene milk and the price of Safeway milk goes up, we're assuming that they are competitors, right? Price of Safeway milk goes up. So if I'm supplying this milk, then I would shift supply right or demand left. Now, jelly beans. We're in the jelly bean market and the price of jelly bean goes up. This is the same as the hamburger. This is a change in price, not a change in demand or supply. Therefore, we are on the same demand curve or the same supply curve. Oreo cookies and milk are considered complements. So if the price of milk increases, demand for Oreos is going to go down or left. When we're talking about Burger King Whoppers, if the Big Mac at McDonald's lowers their price, then demand for Burger King Whoppers would shift left. Or you could say that some people said that McDonald's was going to supply more, but technically this is not really what my answer would be. I put it on here because I saw a lot of it. But really, demand would shift left for Whoppers. Cowboy Boots. If Old Navy launches a campaign, they're trying to change consumer tastes, marketing, and therefore demand right for Cowboy Boots. If we're in the hot dog market and 60 Minutes does an exposure, the truth about hot dogs, it's going to decrease demand because people are going to say, oh, I don't want to eat hot dogs anymore. If hot dog buns uses flour and the price of flour increases, then this causes an increase in the price of inputs, therefore supply will shift left. If mad cow disease wipes out a lot of dairy cows, then butter is going to cost more, supply left. And if the electric company announces that a computer bug will likely result in power outages, demand for candles right now will increase. And so this is an overview of the supply and demand answers from the homework.